Have I got some news for you today? Behind me here is the brand new Targa 41, and we are going to show you absolutely everything about it. Now, Targa are well known for producing some of the toughest boats on the sea. They are extremely robust and new ones do not come along very often. So this is properly big news. My name is Hugo Andreae. You're watching Motorboat and Yachting. Let's go and take a look. Right, first thing to know, prices. They start for this new model at £694,200 ex VAT. It is a brand new hull, completely redesigned, hydrodynamically very efficient and also very quick. Now, a couple of things to point out while we are here. Yes, you are not seeing things. That is a hull window, a proper inset flush fitting hull window, one of the very first, well, the first time Targa has ever put one on a boat. I know it's not the biggest you've ever seen, but this is big news for Targa. We've also got flush fitting glass all the way around and lots of extra little modern touches. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is not exactly a revolution in boat design. It's not a flash, all singing, all dancing boat. It is a serious, heavy-duty machine. But don't be deceived into thinking just because it's built like a brick outhouse that it goes like one. They are also properly quick. Now, this boat is fitted with twin Volvo Penta D6 440 horsepower stern drives, and that will give it a top speed of over 40 knots. Or you can have IPS 650s, those swiveling pods that will give it easier berthing with a joystick. Right, let's get going, show you a few things, starting with the transom here. You can see we've got the usual sort of rocket launcher style fender holders, 6 of them on the stern here. We've got an access hatch down to the stern drives. Such an obvious thing to do, but you lift that up and then if you get a rope around your stern drives, you can reach down and undo it without having to dive underneath the boat. Really big bathing platform. It's called a 41, but actually, if you count the platform and the pulpit, it's actually 45 feet long. Now, another thing to note is that it's a very beamy boat. It's the same beam as the Targa 46, but on a 41-foot model. So you can see we've got a really big cockpit. Now, again, not exactly revolutionary stuff, but really important. We've got some much more sociable seating. So we've got really deep, comfortable bases, a nice L-shaped wrap of seating, got a second seat over here. This section here is actually an option. Normally you just get the side seats, but with all this space, all this seating, and on this side too, we've got a really sociable cockpit design. All the same lovely teak detailing. Look at that, folded up. We've got this nice retainer in here so things don't fall off, but obviously they open up. Beautiful teak table. Now, they really are the masters of teak at Targa. Look at the size of some of this. Everything you see is either solid or teak face, but look at the thickness of that. Absolutely solid. That is clearly solid teak. We've got really safe, secure gates that swing round so you can shut the whole thing off. Really tall too. Look out, that's almost hip height for me. That is properly deep and secure. We've got walk-around decks on both sides. Check that out again, really high. And look at this, this is a first too. We have got gates. So if you want to step off onto the pontoon from the side, that just lifts up. There's obviously some securing mechanism in there. I can't quite, oh, there we go. So that lifts up, that swings out. I'm not going to do it now because it's a bit of a drop off. And the other thing, look at the size of that rubber fendering. Absolutely massive. So these are proper, not commercial style boats, but you can really use them. They're proper knockabout designs. And also, look at the thickness of this. I mean, that is a properly sturdy gate. Everything about it, they're built to reassure you, and it really does feel like that. Now let's take a quick walk around the side decks. Here's that flush fitting glass I told you about. Again, not revolutionary by other standards, but it does make the whole design just look a little smoother, a little neater, without losing any of that robust Targa feel. Really good. Even here's a couple of steps up, you might notice, but it stays really nice and wide. These flared handrails make it feel superbly secure. Big walk-through bow. You can see there is a fold-out gate step if you want to step off the bow. You can have the bow anchor offset again to the starboard, so still leave that walkway through there, because certainly in Scandinavia they sometimes more bow to an island or a rock. Really heavy-duty cleats, fair leads. Big sunbed here, and again flush-fitting hatches. Another first. Not rocket science, but it all helps just move the whole game on a bit. That iconic forward-facing windscreen with the wipers, big brow over it, so stays nice and dry if it's raining, but in heavy seas, wipes clear. Full walk around decks. Again, look at the weight of that sliding door. It just feels like it's built to survive a nuclear holocaust. Side deck hatches. Let's see if we can just flick that open. Look at that, really deep draining deck locker. Again, if you want to put fenders or wet ropes or even wetsuits and things in there. There is storage under all these seats. You can see under this one here, all of these. In fact, this one I might just open. I'm not going to open every locker on here because we'd be here forever, to be honest, but this is actually a refrigerated locker. It's an option, but really good option to have. You can keep a few cold beers or wines in there, but storage under all these. Now, before we go inside, let's take a quick look up at the Flybridge. Now, one thing I have noticed, this is quite a tall step because they've kept it at seat height, but apparently you can have a little step inbuilt into there so that when if you need a bit of help getting up or down, you can have an extra step built in there. Now look at the size of those handholds. I mean, they really don't need to be that thick, but because they are, it just gives you extra reassurance. Another handhold on this side, and then up to the Flybridge. Now, again, for some boats, this wouldn't seem like a particularly big Flybridge. For a Targa, it is verging on the revolutionary. We've got a lovely little L shape of seating here. We've got a fold-over backrest here. Fold that across. Then you've got a good, secure, sociable dining area up here. Really robust A-frame for your radar communications. This is an optional bimini. You can see that slides forward, and then you can have shade over the whole of the Flybridge. That also faces the other way. Bit more storage under there, lots of cup holders. Classic Targa helm position. That wheel adjusts for tilt if you want to. Nice clean design, nothing too fancy. We have got the joystick fitted to this boat, so even if you do have stern drives, you can use a joystick. We find that they're not quite as effective as the IPS, but stern drives are quicker and more efficient, so you can pick and choose where you want to go with that. You've got a bow thruster, twin Raymarine screens, and of course a secure hatch that folds down. There is a little infill that goes under there when you close it, so this can effectively be sealed off if you want to. Make sure that when you leave it on its berth, you don't need to faff around too much with covers. Now, one thing I should point out in this cockpit, there is an option to have an extending sunshade, and you can see there are mounting points for biminis here, so you can completely surround this whole area with canopy covers, see-through canopies, and then this cockpit effectively becomes like another outdoor room that is completely enclosed with canopies, so you can use it all year round, and then you have zip gates that you can move through onto the side decks if you need to. Now, another thing to point out, that is an option, but you can have a joystick in here so that if you're stern to berthing in the med, again, it just allows you to drive from there. Big sliding door into the saloon. That's another nice feature. There's an automatic brake on that, so when you let go of the handle, that actually sort of, oh no, it doesn't hold it completely secure, but it just breaks it. It stops it sliding around. There you go. And then it locks into place like that. Really lovely saloon, absolutely surrounded in teak. They are really, really good at their teak craftsmanship. I mean, look at that. The beautiful curves in there, lovely deep fiddles, but also we've got some surprisingly modern touches. Now there you've got bottle holders, absolutely essential, but look what happens there. Yep, I know. It is a high-low television in a Targa. Now some would say that is verging on the sacrilege. The rest of us just think, fair play, about time too. But really nice to see that. But I love the fact that, actually, let me just bring that up again. I love the fact that even though it's a TV, look, they've even bothered to make little teak mounts for it to sit on. Good on them. And right up above it, traditional analog clocks, just to prove that they haven't completely lost the plot. More storage, little window hatch there just to get a bit of ventilation in, controls for all the heating. You can obviously get aircon too if you want to. And from inside, those flush fitting windows just means you've got deeper windows, there's less frame, there's more glass, really lovely, bright saloon. You've also got a really big galley. Now, I have to say, it almost feels slightly out of scale. It does leave a relatively narrow walkway in between because that is a properly deep and tall work surface. But what it does mean is you get a really good sized galley, big sink in there. Now this is all proper real Corian, absolutely rock solid. We've got 2-burner hood under there. This is fitted with an induction hob. I think you can get a diesel heater if you want to. This one has got an oven. We've got a dishwasher, lots of workspace, extractor up above. And look at all this teak work around here. Another thing to point out is just how much headroom there is in here. Now, I'm 6 foot 1 inches, and there is a good 18 inches above me. You can just about still see me in frame, but that is properly tall. Even the Dutch would fit in here. Good wrap of seating. It's up a little step, but that just means that you make you sit a bit higher, give you better views out. That will also drop down if you want to create an extra berth in here. Then moving forward, we've got big pilot bench here. You can sit at least 2 or 3 people. Now, some of the other things I ought to just take a moment to show you. This being Targa, everything is beautifully fiddled. You've got your coffee mugs. Most importantly of all, you've got your shot glasses. Obviously, in Finland, Norway, they like a bit of fire water, and you've got to have your bespoke shot glasses. They've also got slightly more normal kind of wine glasses and crockery and all the rest, but they really do things properly. Obviously, oh, there's another nice detail here. I can't resist showing you this. Look at that, a special slide-out drawer for the chopping board. It's the little things like that that just make you feel a bit smug if you're a Targa owner. Right, moving forward to the helm position. Now this is all traditional Targa stuff. We've got the adjustable helm wheel. If I just pull this little lever here, grab, it's a little bit tricky one-handed, but oh, pull that out. You see the whole wheel tips. There you go, so you can have it for a seating position, or you can pop it back any particular angle you want and stand up. Very simple, but rather than just having a tiltable wheel, the whole thing tilts, including, you can see the throttles are part of that. So everything adjusts to how you want to drive it, whether you're standing, seated, etc. There is also a footrest down there, just folds up so that when you're sitting, it's a relatively tall chair, so helps to have a bit of footrest to put your feet on. That slides forwards and backwards. You've got the drop-down armrests. You can, in fact, have a suspension seat there too if you want to. Another thing to point out is the size of these opening doors. So you've got one each side, one next to the helm, one over by the pilot side, but much bigger opening than we've seen before on previous Targas. Lovely ventilation, obviously, and again, look at the size and thickness of this moulding. That is a properly heavy door, all manual, No nonsense, it's never going to fail. You've even got a little manual lock that comes up and secures it in place. There's no point in adding stuff that adds complexity without adding any real benefit. So properly, just feels absolutely built out of granite. Good handholds everywhere you look. Have got the joystick option here too. Twin Raymarine screens. Now this is a first too. It's fitted with this kind of non-glare, I think it's called a Nexel or Texel or something finish, but again, just gives a more modern finish and feel to the whole thing. Still got the Volvo Penta engine screens up there and tanks up there. Nice little nod to tradition, and also 3 opening hatches up above. Again, all flush fit, all fitted with screens, so if you want to screen it off, but just lets a load more light and ventilation in here and looks a little bit neater. Right, a couple of other little details up here, always lovely to see. Again, handy place to put your phone or your VHF handheld. Chart locker. In fact, you've even got a special holder for your charts down here too. So even though they are modern, they're not forgetting tradition and old school navigation skills. Right, this is the access to the master cabin, and it is a proper master cabin now. You can see there's closing doors there, but I won't close it all up. But again, just look at the craftsmanship on that. I know I shouldn't be surprised, but it still impresses me. And then we've got curved steps down into the cabin. And this is pure Targa through and through. Absolutely enveloped in warm teak. So even if you're cruising in the northern latitudes, it feels lovely and cozy in here, and epic amounts of storage. I'm not going to open them all because I'll be here forever, but all around the bed, you've got opening ones here, up here, all of these open up. Every tiny little void has been made into storage. So you are never going to run out of options. I think what you're really going to trouble you is actually remembering where you've put stuff, because there are so many lockers, you're going to forget which one you actually put various things in. But exactly the same all round there, behind the door, in there. And yes, it's an ensuite bathroom. Opening hatch here, mirror, more storage there, and a proper walk-in shower. Plenty of space in there, and of course a door to make sure that all the wet and dampness stays in the shower, and then you've got a nice dry heads area. Hanging locker, of course. Now admittedly, you're not going to get terribly many shirts in there, but something tells me that Targa owners are not the type to go out in their pressed Armani shirts too often. Lovely curved finish on some of these interior bulkheads. More storage under there. And then if we drop down here, we have got an aft cabin. And very impressively, they've also squeezed an extra heads compartment in here. So effectively, they're both en suite. Now, admittedly, this is relatively small. There's a decent window for ventilation. You have got a heads, and that actually is a pull-out shower. So technically, it is a wet room, but I'm just going to struggle to show you here, but there is a little bit of space and a teak grating behind the door. So you're not going to have the most long, languishing showers in there, but you can hose yourself down if you need to, or you go and ask your mate up front if you can borrow his shower. But check out the cabin. We've got a good size double bed here, and they have removed this dividing. Normally there is another bulkhead here which makes the whole thing feel relatively cramped, but by keeping this full beam all the way across, there is a second single bed, and that's actually a really good sized bed. That's probably 3.5 feet across, so it's actually a really decent sized single bed. And there are those hull windows. I know, it's not exactly full IMAX widescreen, but you have got a long hull window letting in a bit more light. You've got an opening section to keep it ventilated. Now, headroom under this bed, as you can see, is restricted, I'm 6'1", but for sleeping it's fine. But on this side, you have got full sitting headroom that is perfectly decent. Lots of storage around here too, here, under there, over there, next to the beds, and another equally slim hanging locker for your shirts. Right, let's get back on deck. We still have one thing to show you, and that is the engine room. Now you can see there are two really big hatches here. We've got one on this side, one on this side, so you get unbelievable access once you've opened it all up. But I'm going to need a little bit of help doing this because you do need to remove at least one of these tables in order to get in. Right, we have opened up the hatch, the table has come off and stowed away, and there is in fact a special storage space for that, which I'll show you in a minute. But first of all, just look how big that opening is, and that whole section does exactly the same over the other engine, so access is absolutely phenomenal. Now, the other thing to point out before we go down into the engine bay is on the hatch here, you can see there are two big stowage bags, one here, one here. That has got director's chairs in, there's two in there, there's another one in there, and under the hatch that I'm standing on at the moment, there is exactly the same bags on the underside of it, which to store the two tables in. So they remove, tuck away. If you want to keep the cockpit completely clear, if you're fishing or whatever, then you've got that option. Now you step down onto the engine. They are designed to be stood on. Any of these central parts is fine to stand on. If you have the IPS engines, they do come a bit further forward, but with these stern drives, they're all the way back, and then you can drop down onto this checker plate. You can have a ladder installed in here if you want to make it a little bit easier. But also, with the stern drives, one of the advantages is if you want to, you can fit a Seakeeper stabilizer in there. Now, many would say you don't really need that on a Targa, but if you want to, there is space for it. Now look how beautifully engineered this is. These are the biggest, the D6 440s, all beautifully lit and very, very beautifully laid out. We've got a small Fisher Panda generator over there. We've got the house batteries separated and under special storage boxes over there. We've got the start batteries for the engines here and here. Brilliant access to all the electronics. We've got fuel filters mounted on that bulkhead there. You can see all clear piping. You can actually see the fuel. Over on this side, we've got storage for the stern anchor. You can see that all flakes down into that box there. Again, we've got filters on this side. We've got the hot water calorifier. We've got the battery chargers. And of course, because the hatch is right above my head, I've got full standing headroom. I can happily stand here, work on the engines, and with that side up, it is absolutely brilliant access. And these are the kind of things that make owning a Targa that much easier. That is the all-new Targa 41. Now, for any other boat manufacturer, you might think that was evolution. For Targa, that is revolution. But let me tell you, I think they have done a really well-judged job of updating everything without losing the essence of what a Targa is all about. So I hope you've enjoyed this quick tour. We will do a full sea trial as soon as we get the opportunity, because something tells me this could be a rather special boat.